Hello, I'm Craig Constantine.
Hey, this is David Nebinski. Great to be here. Thanks, Craig.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for showing up. I always get nervous the last couple minutes countdown. I'm like, well, I hope people show up. I hope people actually like me. But no, in all seriousness, it's super awesome. I run out of really nice adjectives to get a chance to talk to you because A, we've never that I can remember have recorded anything. And you were the coach. Were you the head coach? I think Alex was still officially the head coach, or were you totally running it when I went through the third cohort? I think you might have been head coaching it.
I
Can't
don't
remember.
think that the head coach, I think it was just a coach. I don't think there
Oh, we
was,
didn't have that.
yeah.
Oh, we have a new layer now. But anyway, you were basically the man. And so it was super fun to like see how you were doing things, both like as a coaching, from the coaching point of view, but also to see how you were doing things with your show. And I can't listen to every episode, but I do listen. I have this cool way that I follow way too many podcasts, but I only actually load the rare episodes into my player so I don't feel like I'm getting swamped. So we do a little pre-call, and I basically said podcasting, and you said opportunities, and I thought you might
I said
say
possibility.
you said right. You said possibilities. I thought you might say opportunities, but I'm going to take credit for having guessed correctly anyway. So, what makes you say possibilities?
Well, first, thanks. I say possibility in the sense that you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if there's going to be a chance to talk to somebody. There's a lot of times, at least for my show, I don't know the people that I've get lucky to talk to them. So I don't know the exact numbers, but there is a big emphasis on possibility, right? You are trying to reach out to somebody to have a conversation, and that space between an idea to then having an incredible conversation is full of possibility,
Mhm.
full of uncertainty, full of potential um, things that can just go different directions. And so, possibility to me means that there is, from what I've seen, it has been positive possibilities, positive interactions, positive conversations, positive forward motion. And so when I think about podcasting, I don't think about it as conversations. I think it as possibility into something bigger,
Hmm.
something better, something magical, something, um, you know, uh, and so that's why when I think about like each week, it's like, okay, here comes a new episode or here's a new chance. It's like, but no, it's more, it's a new possibility.
Hmm. You have a couple of, I'm going to say different projects. So you have an email newsletter called One Email Away.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, that's literally like a little possibility lozenge that shows up in people's mailboxes. I think that's like literally a vehicle for giving other people access to those possibilities. You have your podcast. What number are you actually on? I know you're beyond 175. Mad
Yeah.
props, by the way.
176 this morning.
200 is in the, I don't know, am I jinxing it? So congrats on that huge milestone. And you also coach like both for Akimbo workshops, and I've seen you coach for Maven, I think it was. So you're doing coaching and you also consult, but there's a clear thread there. Like I said, podcasting, and you say possibilities, but really all of those different things seem to be about possibilities. So and I'm going to ask an actual question, I swear. My question is there something special about podcasting that maybe reveals different kinds of possibilities, or the possibilities feel somehow different? Just wondering if there's something about that particular medium.
Hmm. Um, I think podcasting is a different, um, it's a different type of connection, different type of opportunity than it is, hey, let's have a 30-minute conversation with a friend. I think it brings a certain level of comfort, a certain level of trust, a certain level of connection that is, I think, different than a lot of other things. And so, but yeah, the possibilities are a lot of different ways where it can be, have a great conversation. That's it. Or it could turn into a great conversation, staying in touch, and then, 6 months or a year later, work together. So I think that that's really cool. And the podcast for me, knock on wood, have been really lucky and has led to additional possibilities or opportunities, depending on how you
Hmm.
wanted to talk about it. But I just think that, and maybe it's me just trying to be optimistic, but I do try to, well, I think that the One Email Away newsletter started around the idea of a couple of different ideas. One was, people get jobs or find work through people and not through online postings. But yet, that's what you always see is online postings. So I think a job and an opportunity is always tied to a person. And
Hmm.
so, if I can try to like fix that a little bit or help with that, that feels like uh, important and great and incredible work that I'm lucky to do. So also, I think I wanted to create something a little bit special or a little bit different than just saying, here's this week's episode with the newsletter. So it's a combination of wanting to try something, try to make the newsletter a little bit different than just a podcast newsletter, but also knowing that that the gap between, or that how an introduction or how a referral, how much that matters, and
Hmm.
if I could be a little bit of a spark to that, I would be lucky to do so.
I think there's a there's a clear passion that you have for. I'm going to say doing the hard work. Like, I don't know. I mean, most people I think who listen to this show are podcasters. So yeah, preaching to the choir. We all know like outreach is difficult, and you have to just get in the routine of sending out the things and asking the questions. And most people, like, I don't know, have you ever reached out to somebody who didn't have imposter syndrome yet? Like, it seems like basically everybody goes, "Oh, what do you want to talk to me for?" And so there's this long uphill. It's not a battle, but it's an uphill effort to set things up till you can get to the point where you can press record. And I think that takes a certain kind of person to do it 176 times, as I mentioned before. Congratulations. And I think that work, one could go about that work and think, I'm doing this work because I'm trying to create this thing. But it feels more like you're going about the work because you feel that it's changing the world. Like just having had that conversation and recorded that podcast, that's like your way of being the change that you want to see in the world. And I'm just wondering if you've thought about really dug into the why are you doing podcasting?
Mm. Uh, well, I think podcasting has been super beneficial to me. It's transformed me, and so I've tried to just like keep doing it,
Mm.
right? If it's not generally, if it's not broken and you're still lucky and able to do it, keep doing it. I think like it's created a bunch of different habits. I think I've also got lucky to be a part of podcasting communities and podcasting programs
Yeah.
that uh, box yourself in or support or celebrate in unique ways that I don't think that I wasn't exposed to any of this when I started 3 years ago. So I think once I saw the podcasting workshop, the podcasting fellowship, and was lucky to be a student, um, I was like, wow, this is a whole nother new world that I hadn't been exposed to. So was lucky to stay involved in it for a little while afterwards. And, when you're teaching, coaching other podcasters, it's probably a good idea to keep your podcast going then too. You don't have to, like, I know that like,
Yeah. Do the students really
your
check on me?
your athletic coach could be not in shape, and that's okay too.
Yes.
But for me at least, it was like, wow, this would I can use this as a way to keep going.
Keep the
And
fire going.
yeah.
is there something that I'm like always torn between. I'm just gonna go with my personal curiosity, as opposed to like, what's the question that I think the listeners like? Screw the listeners. Um, what do you do to keep the creative juices going? Like, and I don't want to like poison the well by telling you what I do to keep the creative juices going, but I'm just thinking people might not realize how much energy it really takes to like hole up in the space where you want to record and then spend a half hour editing or whatever, or like write an email and then I got to do this thing again. Like there's a whole bunch of work, and like where do you go to refill the well?
Well, it's also, so it goes back to that idea that I was saying about like kind of boxing yourself in. So if I have a newsletter that goes out every 2 weeks, you know, there's should be podcast episodes in that. So if I, you know, decide not to publish episodes or try to go after and try to record episodes, then the newsletter doesn't go out and then everything can fall apart. So um, I think there's a lot of things that I'm uh, flexible in, and there's other things that I'm inflexible in. So I think for me so far, I've tried to be as consistent as possible. And uh, in terms of editing, sure, it's not easy. I like deepening the learning. I find it very relaxing, meditative, and fun. And sure, it's not. It is a long time, and I've gotten better at not over editing and just to try to think about what's good enough. And I know that we've talked about or joked around about a minimum viable episode and things like that.
Right.
But minimum viable is different for everybody. And so I think that there's ways that I think I've talked about before that like maybe my music could be improved, or maybe my cover art could be improved, but those are projects, and I want to be careful about which different rabbit holes and which different projects to start. And so and a lot of those, they need accountability or you need community for them. But I think for me it's just like, can I keep going each week? And so far I've been able to do that. And I don't know. I like the thrill of that, sending out a cold email to someone or reconnecting with a friend that I hadn't talked to in a little while. I like that. I like that that thrill.
Hmm. Have you thought about, and I'm not suggesting you change your format, but have you thought about creating other, like there's so many different ways, like host on mic and fiction, and there's so many things you could make. Um, do you find that other types of podcasting call to you, or like I'm not going to say you get bored, because I know you're not bored and there's always more you can do in whatever one show that you've got going, but I'm just wondering what are the things like lurking in the back of your bag that you're like, I've always wanted to try, host on mic genre fiction
Mm.
or something.
No, I'm not that smart, not that creative. I'm.
Objection, Your Honor.
uh, I I have experimented with a couple different formats. So I have done a couple, call it roundtable like episodes. I have done a couple host on mics. I did do kind of a Q&A episode a while back where people asked questions similar to Kimbo podcast. I've probably, over the 175, there's probably like 20 to 25 around there, give or take. Different episodes, maybe a little bit less. I also have done some, I think, interesting episodes, which are taking kind of the themes from different episodes and pulling out different clips from the different episodes and kind of
Hmm.
curating a certain conversation on something, like One Email Away, like so stories on how people were able to meet somebody new, form a new over a direct message or an email that really kind of changed their trajectory or sparked a new relationship. I think that that stuff's really fascinating. And so kind of putting that together in like 5 clips for an episode to
Hmm.
try to like hear back to back, like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Um, I've done that and a couple other episodes that are like that. So that's been some of the more like experimental. But to be honest, some of those are also um, uh, out of constraints, whether that's I wasn't able to reach out to somebody earlier,
Hmm.
schedules didn't
Right.
align, and then it's like, oh, here we go, what am I going to do this week? And that so that's uh, and so that process has been fun, but in the beginning it's definitely filled with a little bit of uh,
Trepidation. Yeah.
yeah. But then then it was, I think it was like the first one I did that like that, and people were like, "Oh, I love those types of episodes," and I was like, "Oh, that's a thing," and so
That's the thing that my audience wants to hear.
I
Well,
guess
okay.
yeah, I was like, I guess other people do it. I didn't know that, but yeah, I mean, I had an interview with my sister. That was fun. So I think that there's um, stay tuned. There might be some more, call it experimental, or I love, and this is another inside joke that we have, but like being a free range podcaster,
Right.
I love how you want to make promises and keep them and be focused on the change you're seeking to make. But within that, there's a lot of different variety and flexibility. And I think I am glad after I experiment with some of those things, but the the kind of the I don't want to say the standard, but the standard of 30-minute interview, like it's a format that works
Hmm.
for a lot of different people. So going back to before, like a little bit of it, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
What about you, Craig? I mean, so you talked about how many episodes I've done, but
I've got problems. I've got issues. This show is meant to be a companion thing that goes with the podcaster community. And I went, oh, okay. Well, the only way this is going to work is if I don't spend money on it, and if it doesn't have a lot of overhead. So I just went, what's the simplest thing that could possibly work? And I own a professional copy of Hindenburg, so I'll just spend an afternoon learning how to do some presets and some quick editing. And it takes me about 4 minutes from when we're actually off the call to like do the download and get the thing out the door. And the people that are listening to it, they're podcasters. So yeah, of course they hear everything that's wrong, but they also go, "Oh, that's so cool! I finally got to hear David Nebinski talk." So in this show, I'm totally with you. Of like, yeah, it works. I'm not messing with it. It's 20 episodes in. It's just like it's simple. I lay it down and I love it, and it's an excuse for me to get to talk to, like, if I didn't put these out and could somehow figure out how to still make people want to get on a call and pretend that we're making a podcast, I would still do the conversations. Like, I just love having conversations with people. But I have other podcasts. I have Movers Mindset, which is like super long form and super sporadically produced because we interview in person, and it's like massively post produced. It's complicated, but it's only like at 103 or something, and after 5 years, because we go real slow. And I have another one where I was like, when Maria Zenadu, or like our mutual friend, said, let's start doing 60 seconds. I'm like, I really feel like I should do that. But then I managed to like, no, I don't need another toy. But then I built a whole podcast. It's 519 episodes in with, little short quotes. So I'm all over the road, like with too many different things going on. And, um, on one hand, if I was driven by numbers, I'd be freaking out. I'd be like, nobody cares. Nobody's listening to any of this stuff. And on the other hand, I'm like, I really don't care about the numbers, because it's just, 15 people listen to an interview with somebody, and then they post a comment, and I'm like, that's awesome. Like, look,
Mm.
like in Movers Mindset, I often say to the guests, often in the recording, I'll say, like, the definition of success for one of the Movers Mindset episodes is if somebody out there listening hears the guest And then when they meet the guest, they can jump over the part of the conversation where they go, "Oh my God, I love you so much in your book." And they can get to the cool part like 5 minutes later, because then the conversation is better for the guest and that person. Like I somehow managed to like jump them over that. But to me, I think that's
Mm,
great. Like that's what I want to accomplish.
that's a possibility to you.
I think so, and I know it. I know that it happens. Like I know I've heard people.
Yeah, hey, I
I've
bet.
seen
Yeah,
people.
but
Yeah.
I
So
just was curious if like that's if you look at podcasting as possibility as well.
Um, I don't know that I look at it as a possibility for me because and maybe it's because maybe I'm not looking. But I'm not actually
Mm.
looking for like additional work. Like I don't actually do like consulting for companies. So like I'm not trying to find my next gig in the classic gig economy. But it's totally like I don't want to jinx it, but I'm doing a conversation for this show with somebody whose partner I interviewed for my other program like a year and a half ago. And then afterwards we all went out for dinner. And there's like four of us, me, the production assistant, and then these two people. And this other woman that I'm interviewing next, I was like, I got to figure out how to like you need to be on a podcast with me, but I don't have the show. Like you
Mm.
don't fit in the project that I'm so now I'm like, this is awesome. I finally figured out where to slot this person in. I haven't said that to her yet, but I'm sure it'll come up. So yeah, in that sense, I'm always, and it's kind of like all the time, I'm always thinking like that person would make a good guest. That person has a good story. That person thinks they don't have a story, but people should hear about that. So
Mm.
I guess I'm looking, but I think I'm looking for the possibilities that each guest could experience or that they could discover by me having them on some show, maybe.
Yeah, that
And
definitely happens. I mean, I've talked to people that it's sometimes it's the possibility within themselves. So they, you know, are happy to be guests on show because somebody asks great questions and it helps them articulate thoughts and helps them craft their
yeah,
story and stuff like that. So the possibilities kind of work a lot of different ways. So I think that's kind of really cool, and you just don't know.
yeah. I'm down for drinking the possibilities tea.
Cheers to that.
Well, David, talking about formats, this one's aimed at 20 minutes, so that's about where we should call it. Thanks again. I said it before we started recording. I've already said it while we're recording, and I'm going to say it again. Thanks for taking a half hour out of your day to sit down and chat with me. It's always a pleasure to get a chance to talk to you.
Likewise, Craig, thanks for all that you've done with the show and so many other episodes that we were talking about, but also for the incredible work that you've done within the podcasting community. This one, and then also the ones that we talked about previously, the programs, the podcasting workshop and stuff too. So thanks again for all that you do, Craig.
My pleasure. You're welcome. Thank you so much for saying so. All right. See you, David.
Bye, Craig.